things first. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. It is Wednesday. It is the NFL offseason, and yet we have a lot of NFL season stuff to talk about. It's a great early April day.
A new paradigm in the NFL, it would appear. Trades are going to matter. Trades are going to happen. This was the one part
I like the culture of the NFL now.
This was the one thing that it felt like the NFL lagged behind baseball and particularly the NBA. The off-season transaction, the hot stove part of it. And now it seems like, well, the most prominent team in the league is at the forefront of it. It's great.
Should we start there? What? Tell me.
Let's start there. You know who can't be traded?
Who can't be traded?
Me.
Let's do that. No trade clause in his contract. Absolutely. And I would hold out.
All right, so let's talk about it. I can't be traded, CC.
No,
Patriots.
New England called me. I told them. They want
She's not available.
They was giving me 2 number 1s and Brady. I told them Brady ain't going to beat time. I'll still take Jenna.
Love you, Cris Carter. Patriots making moves this offseason. They giveth and they taketh. That's how trades work. Yesterday, they shipped receiver Brandin Cooks to the LA Rams in exchange for the 23rd overall pick. While the Pats move is interesting, what's really interesting is what's next in New England. They've got those 2 first-round picks, 5 picks in the top 95, plenty of draft ammo to move up or down. Are they rebuilding? Are they moving up to get a quarterback? Are they eyeing LeBron? So many questions that we need to wrap our smart little brains around. Cris Carter, I'll start with you. Let's start with what this means for the New England Patriots.
In the last year, New England, to me, I think it's very interesting that they've kind of changed their model. They've been far more aggressive as far as trades, draft picks, as far as acquiring players. Like they were, the only way I can kind of describe it is if they were in a hurry for the first time in the Belichick era. And when I say in a hurry, it started last year when they traded for Brandin Cooks. That was one of the things that I thought, wow, that's not typically a trade that they would make because Brandin Cook, he's in the second to last year of his contract then. Are they going to give him a contract extension, given the numbers of what wide receivers are making? Like, that to me was and then they went after the kid from Carolina. You know, the defensive lineman.
Coney Ely.
Yeah,
they didn't pan out. They traded a draft pick for him. They go out and they sign Stephon Gilmore to a big money deal. They did a lot of things.
Then even during the season, we talk about the Garoppolo thing. Like they got off Garoppolo for a second-round pick.
They get off Dorsett for. They get off Brissett for Dorsett
from Indianapolis. So for me, it's like, wow, why are they rushing? And now to see that they've gotten off of Brandin Cook, well, you would seem to think that he had a successful season. Well, this is what happened. He's in the last year of his contract. And the way New England does business, if you don't agree before that last year comes up, you're going to have problems. That's the reason why it was so problematic with Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler was in the same situation. He was in the last year. They offered him extension. He didn't take it. And now they couldn't trade him, but he ended up having not the type of ending to a season, and they end up losing him for free. They don't like losing players for free. That's why they got off of Brandin Cook. Now the Rams are going to have to make a decision last year of his contract. What do we do? Do we sign him to a contract extension, which I believe that they will? But for me, New England, it seems like they're in a rush to win now. And I'm not using that from a negative connotation. They're just in more of a rush than I've ever seen them. And I think that they're trying to take advantage of this Tom Brady window, but they have a lot of other things going on. Last year at this time, I was so confident in New England of what type of team I thought they were going to put on the field. Right now, I'm not saying I just don't know. I don't know who's going to be their left tackle, and they haven't depended on draft picks like this. That, to me, that's what it means. Are they going to depend on all these draft picks to play with Tom Brady at 40? I don't think so. I don't think they're done willing and dealing. They have relied on veteran players. It's a system built for veteran players, and now they have all these draft picks. You know, so what are they going to do with them?
All right, so my initial immediate takeaway when I saw this is we now know they are not trading Rob Gronkowski.
Yes.
You cannot. You already lost Amendola. You've now traded away Brandin Cooks. Julian Edelman's coming off an ACL. You're not trading Rob Gronkowski. My second immediate...
You got him 2 years on the books,
right,
at a good number.
He's not a guy that you need to agree to a contract extension to. You probably feel like after these 2 years of Gronk, he might be done playing football. We have the hammer of the franchise tag, which never been used on him. So Gronk is either going to be retired or a Patriot this year. I'm confident in that. My second reaction was, man, there's no team in sports better at the transaction than the Patriots. Now, they miss on draft picks somewhat often. Really almost in line with league average. Like, they haven't figured out the draft. But what they did with Brandin Cooks was they traded away the 32nd pick for Brandin Cooks, got a year out of him, and then traded him away for the 23rd pick. So they got 1 year of service and moved up 9 spots in the draft. So they're very good at this part of it. And my final thought was Nate Solder. And I know I brought up Nate Solder when we were talking about Gronk, and people, it's not sexy to talk about offensive linemen, but we know they've had Matt Light and Nate Solder at their tackle position for the entirety of the Brady era, for the left tackle position. Barring injury, those have been the 2 guys. They were in a position where he signed somewhere else in free agency. There is not a free agent available I think they are comfortable signing at this point in the market to be their left tackle. So I think they wanted more draft ammunition. There's a couple of guys I think they're targeting. One of them, I'd be surprised if they're targeting Orlando Brown, but Colton Miller, he's 6'8". He's out of UCLA. Solder, 6'8". Also, Mike McGlinchey, a 6'8" tackle out of Notre Dame. I would imagine the Patriots are saying, we have to leave the first round of this draft with our left tackle. We now have more ammunition to make sure that happens.
I like you looking at it that way because right now, if you look inside the New England Patriots in their draft board, in the draft room, they have a board in there. I guarantee those 2 names are way, way up there.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Tom Brady, what they're trying to do, what they do offensively, I mean, they're going to keep the tight end in now and have him block him and help out for that left tackle? Or do they get the best prospect in college football and bring him into the fold? Yeah,
but let me ask you a question. What do you think Brady's reaction was? Because I bet Brady's reaction last year when they traded for Brandin Cooks was, this is awesome. Like another weapon. But now when he sees Amendola leave, he sees Dion Lewis leave, who he likes out of the backfield, and now he sees Brandin Cooks leave for something he can't touch. They didn't trade him for a player. They traded him for a pick. What do you think Brady's reaction to that is?
Wherever he was, he couldn't have been happy. Because now, as a veteran, Now, Tom gave us, he gave us a little insight into his life in Tom versus time. Now Tom's got to bend over backwards for another wide receiver, whatever his personality is. Belichick and them, they don't care. They're going to bring in someone, and Tom's got to open himself up to learn this guy, try to bring this guy up to speed compared to what about some carryover from last year? Now, to me, I don't believe Chris Hogan, who's on their roster, is the answer. So New England, are they going to put another young wide receiver, which they've missed in the draft, or did they see something in Philip Dorsett, the former first-round pick from University of Miami, with Indianapolis, who they, in the Jacoby Brissett trade, did they see something in him in a year with him? Because what it tells me is they did not see enough in Brandin Cook in this year to be able to sign him and keep him going forward.
And they did, just real quick, just want to clarify, they did talk to him about an extension, but the money he wanted was not in line with what they wanted to give him.
Don't you think it's interesting that they put so much stock in what Brady thinks to the point where Robert Kraft invited him into a meeting last year and he basically orchestrated the whole getting Jimmy Garoppolo out of there, but he can't get a wide receiver to stay 2 or 3 years that he's comfortable with? Just a thought. Secondly, here's my question to you. So now they get rid of Nate Solder, we talked about, and Amendola, and Dion Lewis, and Malcolm Butler. Which is the most important position that they need to fill now?
Well, right now I think it's left tackle. I don't think there's a...
You got a 40-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's left tackle. But I also think when you talk about those guys, I think it is worth noting that every single guy we just mentioned, including and add Brandin Cooks to the list, were guys they tried to re-sign, guys they would have liked to bring back, but the price became too steep. And I know, CC, like, there is sometimes, if anyone's ever been to an auction, okay, whoever wins an auction for an item, they almost by definition have overpaid because they have raised their paddle when everyone else says that's too much. So almost by definition, you've overpaid. The Pats refuse. Mangini talks about this. They have a walkaway number, and they walk away. And that has served them very well. It's one of the reasons they don't ever have these bad contracts that are killing their cap.
They do not have one bad contract on their roster.
Well, that's why you say they're so good at transactions.
Right. But there is a downside to that. The downside to that is sometimes you run out of players. Sometimes all of a sudden it's like, man, we'd love to have Danny Amendola back, but not at $6 million a year. We'd love to have Brandin Cooks back, but not at $14 million a year. We'd love to have Nate Solder back, but not at $11 million a year. And then it's like, oh, so we didn't sign any bad contracts, but now there's only bad football players left to sign to good contracts. Like, that is the risk that you run. So we'll see what they do with it.
Is there a team that has done more with less? That is there a team that has gone farther with other people's, if you want to call it trash, that they turn into treasure than the New England Patriots?
No one. No one's done.
So I don't think they're as concerned. All right, coming up.
They got a lot of conversion to be doing.
A lot of conversion.
Yeah.
A lot of trash to treasure conversion.
Yes.
Big Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday coming up. So don't make plans. Sit on your couch. Watch nothing but television, because the question is Tiger showing signs he can win the Masters? It's next time, First Things First.
This is the First Things First podcast. I'm Nick Wright, and before the show moves along, I want to tell you about today's show being brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring, posting your position to job sites and waiting and waiting and waiting for the right people to see it? ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way for you, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates just for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find your next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive, so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Right now, our listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/FTF. That's ZipRecruiter.com/FTF. ZipRecruiter.com/FTF. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
All right, here we go. Moving on to the Masters now. We already know it's a tradition unlike any other. And if Tiger Woods can somehow pull this off, it could be the comeback story unlike any other. Woods has won this tournament 4 times, most recently back in 2005. But then a sex scandal, and then back surgeries, and then an arrest, and then lots of pain. But now he is back, and he says he feels great. And Vegas says he's the favorite this weekend. Woods spoke about returning to form.
I'll be honest with you, it is crazy. I didn't think, I thought prior to the fusion surgery that that's pretty much it. I'll have a nice, comfortable, and great life, but I'll never be able to swing the club like I used to. Speed-wise, there's no way. Lower back fusion. But for some reason, I don't have any pain. Yes, I'm much tighter, but I don't have any pain. And I've had to really work on strength in different ways. And for some reason, it's come back. I wish I could tell you, I wish I knew, but all of a sudden I have this pop in my body and my speed's back and my timing.
Well, those are lethal things to happen to Tiger Woods if you're the competition watching that press conference. CC, what does Tiger need to do if he is, in fact, going to compete and then go on to win the Masters?
I think first people should get an understanding because of who he is. We said, okay, what's the expectations? They asked Tiger yesterday, and he said to win his 5th green jacket. But, you know, he mentioned one word that I think people should try to understand before you watch the Masters this week, and that was miracle. There's never been in the history of the PGA Tour a player play with a lower fused back. Tiger Woods, and I know through talking to people that are on his team, his agent, I mean, it was on the board. He would not play professional golf again. Now, he said, I wouldn't be able to swing a golf club like I did before. So he knew he'd be able to play golf with his kids, something that's very, very important to him. But to be able to compete, he thought that was totally over with. I mean, he has gone through such a dark part in his life. in trying to get back healthy. He talked about yesterday falling down multiple times and just not being able to get up because he lost a feeling in his lower back, which led to nerve down his leg, which his leg would give out on him, and he didn't know when it was going to happen. He talked about not being able to get out of bed, and now we're talking about he realistically has a chance to win the Masters. Okay, I just wanted to just say all that first. Now, this is what Tiger Woods got to do. There's 8 holes at Augusta National that are, by the designer, it's set up to go right to left.
Dog leg left, right?
Yes. So what they do, the undulation, TV doesn't give it a true understanding of how hilly it is. But typically on these holes that go right to left, there's mounding. There's huge hills out on the right. And these pros are this good, between 270 to 290 yards. They can hit the ball with a spin off of those hills that gives this carom effect where the ball bounds further. So you'll see guys drive the ball 370, 380 because of the way it's built, the undulation, and they're that kind of good. Tiger's been driving the ball left to right. All right, he's got his distance back. He's got his speed back. He's 34th on tour in distance, but he's about 200 as far as accuracy. So there's 8 holes. Hole number 2, hole number 5, hole number 8, hole number 9. Starting the back 9, hole number 10, hole number 13, par 5, hole number 14, and hole number 17. You have to be able to hit the ball right to left off the tee. Now, Tiger's made some adjustments. He's changed the shaft in his driver to a lighter weight fiberglass shaft, graphite shaft. He's typically using steel. He's gone to longer shaft. So he's trying to get used to the lighter weight and the length of it. He's done that in his driver and his 3-wood. So driving the ball, when you watch it, if Tiger drives the ball well, they are going to have a hard time beating him. It's also, this course is set up for older players with more experience. There's so many tricks. There's so many what they call local knowledge that you have to be able to understand. And the veterans, that's why this is the smallest field on tour. That's why there's only 20 golfers, I believe, that really
win it.
Yeah, it's not like the other tournaments.
It's a smaller field. There's only a few guys that really can win it because you have your guys that are grandfathered in because they've lifetime exemption from winning it. You got your couple amateurs in it. So there's only a few guys that can win it. And if people want to envision the mound CeCe's talking about, think back to CeCe, I bet, knows which hole it was. But famously, Tiger, pre-Tiger proofing of Augusta, there was a 540-yard par 5 that he went driver wedge to the hole. And they said,
hole number 15.
Hole number 15. They said, okay.
Like the people of Augusta were embarrassed.
They said
how they set up the course. Like with these new type of golf players, Tiger Woods in particular, we need to do something.
Okay, so let's just talk about what he has to do to win. To win, drive accurate. If he drives accurate and putts anything like we've seen him putt and his short game the last 2 times we've seen him at the Valspar and the tournament after, he will be in the top 4. And then if he's in the top 4, I like his chances. You got to keep in mind this year, 1 putt percentage, 3rd on the PGA Tour. Putts per round, 3rd on the PGA Tour. Scoring average, 5th on the PGA Tour. That's despite, as CeCe mentioned, driving accuracy, not in the top 200 on the PGA Tour. And the other thing I'm so excited about, go ahead, Jenna.
No, go ahead, finish.
The other thing I'm so excited about is this. We have not seen Tiger at the weekend of a major tournament since the Masters in 2015. We haven't seen him make a cut in the major since the Masters of 2015. I would be shocked if he doesn't make the cut, and I think he is positioned. Vegas might have him slightly overinflated, but I'd be shocked if he's not in position to win this thing.
I know we talk about reasonable expectations of him winning. I would love to know what success means, how successful, if for it to be a successful weekend where he has to get to, and who else is in contention that you think at this point he will be competing with?
Success for us as golf fans would be Tiger finishing in the top 5, that he's in contention on the back 9 on Sunday. But this is Tiger Woods, and Tiger Woods won. It's like when you ask me, what about LeBron? I'm going with LeBron's expectations. That's not Tiger Woods' expectations. He says if I get myself in contention, he's expecting to win. So I'm telling you, expecting him to win is not outside of those possibilities.
You're pulling for Tiger. Give us a couple names that you think are good.
The reason why the 2018 Masters is special, not only because Tiger Woods is back, but it's also Dustin Johnson last year on the eve of the Masters, #1 player in the world, fell down in the property that he was renting at Augusta. So he couldn't play in last year's tournament. He's back. He has the perfect type of game for Augusta. Jordan Spieth, if he wins this major, it would be the fastest to win 4 majors, faster than Tiger Woods, faster than Jack Nicklaus. Also, if you look at
defending champ
Sergio coming back. So there are so many other great stories there. Roy McIlroy, he could finish the winning all 4 majors.
Yeah, he had his own slam.
Yeah, so that right there, these storylines are tremendous. That's why it's going to be an exciting weekend.
And Tiger. Coming up, will LeBron cakewalk to the finals for the 8th straight season? That's next on First Things First. Back here on First Things First. Let's talk sports.
We know you don't want to talk about your dancing.
Morning. Deshaun Watson's. You're like, oh, your dancing's not fun, but I'll just talk about my dancing because as a middle-aged white man, my dancing is amazing.
First of all, I'm not middle. I don't know if any of those descriptors.
Deshaun Watson's fantastic
You're white?
rookie season.
Wait a second. Newsflash. Put that on the ticker.
Deshaun Watson's fantastic rookie season was cut short after 6 starts when he tore his ACL in practice. Head coach Bill O'Brien is not concerned about the quarterback bouncing back, saying, quote, he seems to have an instinct for being able to stay out of harm's way, although he didn't. CC, is there such a thing as injury-avoiding instincts?
Well, I mean, I just think if I had those superpowers before I got injured, well, my second time, this is not the first time I blew out my knee. This is the second time. I think that I would have probably had those. You push a button or something for those instincts when they kick in. I think he would have hit that button. He is a great athlete,
man.
But I'm telling you, man, injuries are like a silver bullet. I don't care who you are. When it hits you, like, it's going to kill you.
Listen, Deshaun Watson was one of the most exciting players in the league last year, and he only played a quarter of the season. I am hoping he stays healthy as can be. But, like, Cece, you were remarkably healthy for your entirety of your NFL career until your final season. Since you broke your collarbone once. Was that skill or luck?
Well, I just believe a lot of guys get into collisions. Some guys come out of them. I believe it's a God-given ability. Other guys, it's not. It's just they're unfortunate.
Right.
You know, they're not as flexible in their hips. Their joints and stuff are a little bit tighter. But they're playing sports. Like, if you play it long enough, you practice long enough, you're going to get hurt.
I think Bill O'Brien's trying to speak this into existence because he's had enough of the Tom Savage experience.
Yeah, you have to be fortunate. I don't believe in luck, but I like fortune being on my side.
Okay.
Basketball now. Potential Rookie of the Year Ben Simmons led the Sixers to a win last night. That's 11 straight for Philadelphia. And he did so on a night they honored 76ers great Julius Erving with his very own statue. Dr. J complimented Simmons, saying, quote, he's a once-in-a-lifetime player. Nick, you agree with Dr. J's comments on Ben Simmons?
I agree with the gist of them. Now, as CC would say, do people know how long a lifetime is?
Like, forever?
So, is he once in a lifetime? No. But is he a guy that I think has, if he develops anything close to a reliable jump shot, does he have the ability to be one of the 2 best players in the league? Yes, he does. So if you consider that once in a lifetime, sure. Like, this guy has every part of the game is a B+ or better, except for shooting. We'll see if he develops the shooting.
Hey, Philadelphia, tell me something. When I got drafted by the Eagles, Julius Erving was playing across the street in the Spectrum. What took y'all so long to get a statue? I mean, it's 2018. I mean, forget about Ben Simmons. I mean, they made the man wait forever. Man, he'll say anything.
Man, that's a great point. They put up a statue of a fake athlete, Rocky, before they put up a statue of a real.
Yeah, he ain't beat nobody. I mean, the Doc, man, was the man.
That's a great take.
You know, Rocky 3 also wasn't such a great
Hey, there's a better version of Ben Simmons in Cleveland. It's
James Harden went off last night for 38 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. Harden continues his strong MVP push, and former MVP and teammate Kevin Durant thinks there is only one option, saying, quote, just give it to him. It's his time to win it. CC, is Durant right about Harden?
Oh, he is right. And it's nice to get confirmation from one of the other great players in the world. You know, arguably number 2 in the world. KD's got it right. Harden should have won 1 or 2 already. But typically, things like this happen. His teams haven't had great success in the postseason. And we do this thing where we pick apart people's numbers. Oh, Russell Westbrook. Oh, then the triple-double ain't what it used to be because they're giving him rebounds. Okay, well, Steph Curry, he was the unanimous, so let's pick his game apart. Like, that's what we have done. James Harden deserves a 2018 MVP.
Listen, I understand LeBron's campaigning that he believes he's the MVP. I understand why LeBron feels that way. They might win the same amount of games this year, or even more games this year than they did last year with Kyrie. But every time LeBron seems maybe he could make this a race, then you're like, oh, what Harden end up doing last night? Oh, 38, 10, and 9. Like, I mean, listen, the team's going to win 65-plus games. He is going to finish the year top 3 scoring and assists. Like, to me, this is a no-brainer.
And if there were concerns coming into the season besides the postseason playing with Chris Paul and others sharing the ball, he's answered that.
Absolutely. Best team in the league, best player on the best team. Give it to him.
And finally, the Thunder fell to the Warriors last night, 111-107. Russell Westbrook had a strong performance, 44 points, 16 rebounds. But the 6th seed Thunder have a lot of question marks heading into the playoffs. Nick, how do you evaluate the Thunder season?
Well, just one small critique I would have. When you say heading into the playoffs, I would call it trying to get into the playoffs. They are the 6th seed, so it sounds like they have a margin of error, but they are 1 whole game up on the 9 seed. You don't get in at the 9 seed. Like, that's a tough loss for them. I understand they're playing Golden State. I understand KD had 24 in the first half, but you can't waste these 44, 16, and 6 nights from Russ. No. Listen, Paul George shooting less than 30% from 3 post All-Star. The story on George this year was best 3-point shooting season of his career. That's gone away. Melo, speaking of 3-point shooting, listen, man, maybe at 0 for 4 you keep shooting. I don't know if you keep shooting those threes at 0 for 8 because you finished 0 for 9. Like, this was a game I have said.
That still could have been won.
That could have been won. And I've said for a few weeks now, the Thunder have had one clear blueprint to beating good teams since Christmas. Russ has to be awesome. Russ was awesome last night, and they blew an opportunity. And now I think they probably will make the playoffs, but it's absolutely in play. They draw this same team in the first round. Like, you need Paul George playing as well as possible, not 5 for 19. Like, this is, and I understand he's got to guard KD, so you got to recognize that's going to wear him down.
He's also said after the game he sort of lost his shot somewhere along the way. Can't seem to find it. Has to figure out how he's going to get back to that form again.
Well, don't have a lot of time to find it. Whatever he lost, he needs to find. Like, you can't, if you tell me Russ is going to have 44, 16, and 6. KD only had 10 in the second half after 24 in the first. You can win that basketball game. You needed to win that basketball game. So I'm like, OKC, this is concerning for them.
Yeah, I'm concerned with OKC. You and I, probably about a month ago, there was a conversation about the most disappointing team. And I was like, man, you need to put the Cavs in the same conversation with OKC. You were on it. Like, this became a debate show. It's not a debate show. It became a debate on that. You're like, Chris, OKC is the most disappointing team. I'm like, man, you got to put the Cavs in the same breath as them. I mean, OKC, they have not done themselves any favors. And not only is the seeding going to be worse for them if they do get in, I mean, they have set themselves up to lose in the first round.
Yeah.
Which, how disappointing is that going to be after preseason hype of Paul George and Melo coming there, which would also end in Paul George leaving in free agency. Now, I believe there's 2 different conversations. Very disappointed in the Thunder, thought they would be better. And when you have that type of performance by Russ, where he is distributing, rebounding, taking the right types of shot, pushing the pace, you have to have someone as a 2 and a 3 to be able to help him out. This is what he did against the Warriors. Same type of performance. But when you don't have help, like we continue to say in this NBA, man, you can't win with 1 star. You can't win with 2 stars. You need at least 2.5 to 3 stars to be able to beat Houston, be able to beat Golden State. And right now, they don't have that. And I just believe this might affect, because last night I tried to put, because we can do this, I tried to put LeBron on the court. Because seeing Paul George, I don't know how excited LeBron would be to play with Paul George, the player he is right now. The Paul George I saw last night.
Right now or this season?
This moment.
The second half,
Okay,
say after the All-Star break.
Okay.
Like it became, with some of the rumors about Kawhi, would it be more entertaining to maybe potentially partner up with Kawhi compared to Paul George? So, OKC, I got questions about. But Paul George, what it means for him long term, I believe this is going to affect him and affect his overall destiny and who ends up playing basketball.
And listen, they have to find a way to win their first-round series. They won't do that if they're the 7 or 8 seed. You cannot last year win 47 games, losing 5 in the first round, add Paul George, forget the mellow part of it, but add him as well.
Yes.
And then not even get out of the first round.
Win 47 games, which is what they're on pace to do, and losing 5 in the first round.
If you make it to the playoffs.
You can't be the same team you were last year. You can't.
All right, let's talk about LeBron. We just discussed him a little bit. Wherever you fall on this guy, what you cannot argue is that when he's on the court, the Cavs can win, even when he's playing the best team in the East. Last night, his Cavs still not back at full strength, still without a starting rotation, still won, beating the Raptors 112-106. LeBron had 27 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. The Cavaliers have now won 9 of their last 10 games. LeBron James spoke on his team's future moving forward.
We don't know what we can become. We don't know. we have no idea. But right now we're playing good ball. We want to try to continue that, but we don't know what we can become. We have not been whole all year.
All right, Nick, did the Cavs erase any doubt that they are the favorites in the East, despite what these standings tell us?
Yeah, I mean, you said they played the best team in the East. I was wondering, was it an inter-squad scrimmage?
Hilarious.
Because they're the best team in the East.
They're doing the best record in the East.
Listen, they don't have the best record in the East. They're right now gonna struggle. I mean, they're gonna get to around 50 wins, same as last year, by the way. But you watch, for them, there has to be an answer to the question if it's not Cleveland. And so the question, what has to go through your mind if you're trying to make the case is, but like a former NBA GM who I have a ton of respect for, Bobby Marks, was trying to make the case to me on Twitter last night that there's reason to be concerned about the Cavs. Then tell me, if they're the question, who's the answer? Because I watched Toronto last night try to, OG Anunoby, rookie, you try to guard LeBron James. That's hilarious. Pascal Siakam, you guarded him and did a good job on him the last time you guys played when he went for 34 and 17. That didn't work out. All right, CJ Miles, you get a chance. LeBron looked like one of those cartoon characters when they put out the big steak in front of him with the saliva coming out when CJ Miles started checking him. So that's your triumvirate to go try to check LeBron James. So if it's not going to be them, who is it going to be? The Celtics? Well, if the Celtics were healthy, but they're not, and they're not going to be. The Celtics with Gordon Hayward and Kyrie and Marcus Smart, now that's a discussion. But that team has not existed but for 7 minutes all year. Philly, listen, I think Philly is the toughest matchup for them, but you simply don't go in the NBA from not making the playoffs to winning your conference. That's never how this goes, unless, like we saw the Celtics do it when they added KG and Ray Allen. That's an outlier. Usually there's a progression. Look at the progression the Thunder had. The Thunder went from not making the playoffs to facing to taking the Lakers to 6 in the first round, to the next year going to the Western Conference Finals against the Mavericks, to then making the finals. So who's the answer to the question if it's not Cleveland? You have LeBron playing offensively as well as he's ever played, and the point he made there is important. They have played 0 games this year with their actual lineup. So whatever we think they are right now, theoretically, and I believe they should be better once they are healthy, and George Hill should be back before the postseason. So, I mean, who are the favorites in the East? The team with LeBron has been the case for the last decade. See?
Just pause for silence. Nick Wright, you were right. That's something I'm trying to teach you. I'm trying to teach you also.
Let me take it and I'll say it one more time, please.
Nick Wright was right about Cleveland. I was concerned. Jenna, you were concerned. And it's not as if we're not fans of LeBron's or fans of the Cavs. It was what was playing out in front of our eyes. I mean, multiple lineups. Kyrie, let's go back. Kyrie forces a trade. He wasn't happy. Forces a trade out of Cleveland. Man, LeBron hadn't played without no superstar like Kyrie. Like, how are they going to be able to get it done? And it's not our fault. Toronto, they are a better team. They're still just not as good as Cleveland. I mean, they got the best record at home. They got a great record on the road, 24 and 15. Their bench, it is deeper. The younger players, man, they are developing. But they still don't have no answer for the guy in Cleveland, in LBJ. And if he has a competent lineup with him, he has shown that you have to have an answer to him. And no one in the East has an answer to him unless it would be Philadelphia. And that would be not an answer to him, it would be Joel Embiid, who they wouldn't have an answer for. So no one in the East has an answer for LeBron. The only way you can fight that is to have someone who is a once every generation type player in Joel Embiid. So to me, Toronto, these last 2 losses to Cleveland, these were critical. I mean, these are critical losses. And, Nick, you and I were talking last night, and I just believe that a team that is trying to be special, and if their goal is trying to win an NBA championship, bring that championship to Toronto the first time, you question some of the judgment of their leaders.
I don't love what Kyle Lowry did. Kyle Lowry, I know you went to Villanova. I know you were part of what became this program. You are their biggest recruiting tool for 5 stars because you're the best pro they have.
Yes.
I get all that. You cannot be in San Antonio at a 9:20 East Coast tip-off for the national championship game the day before, back-to-backs against Cleveland and Boston. And if you are going to make that decision, if you are going to say, I can be and don't worry about it, what was he, 5 points last night?
I had to steal you.
What you can't be is 2 for 11 with 5 points after that. Like, I saw it.
People won't be thinking about and looking about, but when you have the type of athletic maturity, like these 2 games, and Boston was only 2 games behind them going into last night's game.
With the tiebreaker, and you play them on a back-to-back tonight. Like, Boston ended up losing last night, which helps them to where they now have some breathing room for the 1 seed. But this all falls apart on you if at the end of the year, after this great season, guess what?
Right.
We're not even the 1 seed. All this stuff. And I am not saying Kyle Lowry necessarily would have played better had he not been in San Antonio.
But we wouldn't have had to look at it.
But it was the worst game of the year for him. And you have talked about, CC, how because the roster is so new in Cleveland, these guys, aside from LeBron and Love and JR and Tristan, don't have the repeated history of beating these dudes in the head. And so they don't have that confidence. And some of the bench players on Toronto, they also don't have the feeling of these guys always beat us. This was an opportunity after you blew a game 2 weeks ago, and your team leader is in San Antonio the night before and goes for 5 points, worst game of the year. I don't love that. I don't love it, Kyle.
All right, Cavs win 9 of their last 10 games. Can't believe Nick was right. Nick was right, said CC. Hey, coming up, let's go back to some football.
Best thing is we're on to the next subject. He's going to be wrong.
Welcome back to First Things First. We're joined by Cris Canty. Lovely rainy Wednesday here in New York. How are you, Cris?
I'm great, Jenna. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing so well.
Okay.
Still awkward. Still awkward.
Without fail.
Still awkward.
I was trying to be cool about it.
You're doing better than okay.
Jenna, you were fine.
Why do we laugh? What are we laughing at?
I didn't laugh. I was smiling at you.
You are doing wonderfully, Jenna. Wonderfully.
Right,
I'm serious.
Thank you.
No problem.
Now to the big news in the NFL. Cris Canty, the news, the Patriots sending wide receiver Brandin Cooks to the Rams for a first-round pick. Cooks had over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns in just a season with the Patriots. And he will join an offense of Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Todd Gurley. The Rams continue to go all in as they added multiple stars on defense throughout the last few weeks, including Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib and Ndamukong Suh. They got quite a team now, Cris. What does this mean for the Rams? Is the project overhaul complete at this point?
Well, I don't know about complete. There's still a lot of offseason to go. They don't have a lot of draft capital, but we'll see what happens as veterans become available in the last parts of the offseason cycle. But when you start talking about what the Rams are doing, they're trying to capitalize on having a starting quarterback on a rookie contract. It's the same concept that we talk about with the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. So they lost a speed guy in free agency with Sammy Watkins. You add a speed guy in Brandin Cooks, somebody that can be a vertical threat, displace the defense. If you look at what Brandin Cooks brings to the table, 3 straight years of having 1,000 yards receiving or more, and he was tied for the NFL league lead in receptions of 20-plus yards downfield with DeAndre Hopkins. I believe he had 16. So he's a guy that can give you production in the downfield passing game, and he can be that threat toward the defense so teams can't stack the box against Todd Gurley in that running game. It's a prolific Rams offense. They were the #1 scoring offense in the league, top 10 in passing and rushing, but they needed to have that element at outside vertical threat, and Brandin Cooks brings that.
So here's the thing. You alluded to what I believe is the single most important part of this. We have to start looking at the NFL as almost side-by-side leagues. Teams with a quarterback on a rookie contract and everybody else. Because what did Seattle do when they had Russell Wilson essentially for free? Because not only a rookie contract, but a third-round rookie contract. Man, bring in Michael Bennett. Bring in Cliff Averill. Let's just bring in guys. We have all this extra money with a franchise quarterback that's not being paid as such. People don't think about it this way. It's one of the reasons Philly's been able to add Jay Ajayi, reload this offseason. They have a franchise quarterback making this type of money.
And with the unexpected growth of the salary cap.
Right.
The salary cap's over $170 million now, too. So with that model, right now is the time. Like, it's even easier now to be able to do that model Seattle had, that you have to be able to add these veteran players before you have to pay this guy $120 million.
Right, and you got to take advantage in the here and now. The whole, well, let's wait until the quarterback's in his prime. By then, he's going to be making $30+ million. You're not going to have the room for it. So, like, what the Rams know is Aaron Donald's coming up, Todd Gurley, then Jared Goff. Also in 2019, free agents, LaMarcus Joyner, who they franchised this year. They traded for Marcus Peters. He's coming up the year after that. Like, go for it right now.
And Brandin Cooks, he's on a fifth-year option.
Right,
you're going to have to pay him. You don't trade a first-round draft pick without thinking you're going to extend him.
And so this is what I want to ask you about, CC, about Cooks, because you talked about the vertical threat. This was, a lot of people were skeptical when the Chiefs signed Sammy Watkins, that big deal. The Rams didn't want to pay him 3 years, $48 million. The Chiefs did. I know the Chiefs believe that Sammy is better than his numbers show last year because the knock on Jared Goff is accuracy downfield. So last year, he threw the ball. This is courtesy of Kean Fay, pre-snap reads. He threw 14 times where the ball traveled more than 20 yards in the air to Sammy Watkins. Only 2 of those were accurate. So there were only 2 of 14 deep passes, Sammy Watkins, that were accurate throws. He only completed, not surprisingly, only 2 of those 14. So what can Cooks do outside of get open deep if the quarterback is not great at making those particular throws?
Well, I think that Sean McVay and the coaching staff there, what they're going to do in Goff's 3rd year is they're going to put more of a demand for him to be better in that aspect of the passing game. They re-signed Tavon Austin, so he's their reverse speed guy, change of pace guy. But Brandin Cooks got to be down the field, a down-the-field threat. This is what I'm worried about with Brandin Cook. Sean Payton, one of the best play callers, they drafted him in the 1st round. Year 3, they gave up on him, traded him to New England. Man, New England's offense, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, they gave up on him in 1 season. I'm a little concerned about how good he can be as a wide receiver. Is he a fast guy, a track guy playing football? Or ultimately, is he going to have the upside that someone like Sammy Watkins we believe is going to have? That is a question that's going to have to be answered if the Rams win in this deal. Because when you trade a 1st-round pick, you're expecting to also sign him to a contract extension, but you are expecting him to develop as your #1 wide receiver. And that's the part that only Brandin Cooks, he's going to have to answer that with his play this year.
Did the Patriots give up on him, or did he just not fit the mold of how they were going to do business re-signing? Because if he was, what would he have to do for them to say, you know what, this is the guy that we will actually keep around and re-sign, even though this is not usually what we do? What would you have liked to see out of him?
The problem in New England is that Tom Brady only makes $14 million. So when you come with a contract extension, their salary cap structure is totally different than anyone else.
Right.
Everyone else, their ceiling is, where's their quarterback? We just talked about Kirk Cousins. In Minnesota, the ceiling is $28 million. And then you start paying your players accordingly based on their value to the team.
Yeah, New England, it's $14 million.
It's $14 million. I mean, second receivers are getting $12 to $14 million. Sammy Watkins got $16 million. Brandin Cook had to be looking for, I mean, whatever you want to say, you got to give me $12 to $15 million. That's just not going to happen in New England because of the way the team is set up, Chris.
You're absolutely right, CC. And I hesitate to say they gave up on him, but I just don't think he was going to be included in their long-term plans, given the needs that they created this past season when they traded away Jimmy Garoppolo. You got to find a successor for Tom Brady. You know that Rob Gronkowski has had health issues. You lost Nate Solder in free agency, and you have to do something about your pass rush. So they have a lot of needs, and they needed draft capital to be able to address some of those needs this offseason. So they saw an opportunity opportunity. If they're not going to extend Brandin Cooks, it made sense to flip him for a first-round draft pick.
Yes.
Just quickly here, 20 seconds. On the Rams side of things, are they, to you now, one of the 3 favorites in the NFC?
I think you have to consider it. It's a young team, and you have a quarterback that's continuing to develop. Like you noted, he's got to improve on his down-the-field passing, but I think having the weapons there, having the threat of a Brandin Cooks is going to help. And again, you got to do everything you can to try to make things easier on Todd Gurley.
Chris, we'll see you a little bit later in the show.
All right, sounds good.
Don't go anywhere. Coming up, talk some basketball again. Kevin Durant admits the Warriors are not invincible.
Not in the polka dots?
Next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. Chris Mannix joins us now. Chris, Nick is genuinely in a better mood when he knows that you are going to come on the show.
That is 100% true.
Genuinely in a better mood. Yeah. And it ramps
you're not here
up.
often, and we get the other side of it the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad
the
you
other 4,
did.
you're stuck. I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he finally gets to defend.
I thought this was going to be something nice, and now you just
That actually was very sweet. I was telling our guest how much you enjoy having him.
Still riding the Cavalier high over here.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Yes,
Like a
game
tidal
one.
wave.
We got a potential preview of a spicy playoff matchup yesterday. You know the cast of characters, don't you? Warriors, Thunder, Westbrook, Durant, general drama all around. Warriors got the win in this one behind 34 out of Kevin Durant. Westbrook did not go down easy, scored 44 of his own. However, after the game, Durant admitted the Warriors were not invincible. Chris Mannix, how vulnerable is this Golden State team?
I think they're more vulnerable than they have been before for all the reasons everybody knows. I mean, their bench is not as good as it's been in years past. Steph Curry is injured. We don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. But one thing I'd remind people about the Warriors is that in recent years, singular year, last year, they breezed through the Western Conference playoffs. But this is not a team that has not faced adversity before. Remember 2015, they're down 2-1 to the Memphis Grizzlies. Didn't look all that good. 2016, trailing Oklahoma City 3-1 in the conference finals. They've battled through that. They battled through that problem. They have fought through some tough situations, and I still think that if they can just get Steph back.
I think most people would call those high-class problems.
High-class problems. You're right. Look, they're.
I mean, Memphis, the series was just getting started. Mm-hmm. All right?
But Memphis in 2015 was
now that OKC, the OKC thing, like that was real. Like they wouldn't be the team they are now, that OKC thing. So I do understand that, yes, they have been. People don't give them credit for not going through anything.
Mm. Go ahead.
No, look,
let you finish.
The other part of it is that as poorly as they played in the totality of the season compared to others, their bench is starting to play a little bit better. You're getting production out of Jordan Bell. Andre Iguodala hasn't played a lot in the second half of the season, but in the first half before the All-Star break, he was shooting something like 25% from three-point range. Since then, he's in the high 40s. So maybe he's starting to get some of his mojo back. Look, it's all predicated on Steph. We know that. Mm-hmm. But if he's healthy by the second round, this is still the team to beat in the Western Conference.
Well, here's the question I have for you, because this is something where there's been a bit of a point of contention. Let's say, who do you think is their worst possible matchup in the first round?
Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Oklahoma City.
Do you think they could be beaten in the first round? If they get Oklahoma City, we know, let's assume Steve Kerr wasn't lying to us, Steph is not playing in that series. Do you think Oklahoma City could beat them?
If it's Oklahoma City, yes, I think Oklahoma City could.
How come?
Could. Well, look, the game last night, I thought it was an impressive win for Golden State. Look, they got contributions from guys you wouldn't ordinarily expect. But in that game, Paul George and Carmelo Anthony were basically in the crapper. Like, that was not a good performance by the other two stars. You can't expect that. You can't count on that from Oklahoma City in the postseason.
Why? When was the last time the two of them actually gave you something?
Well, they have for a lot
at least one of the two. I think he's saying you can't count on both of them being that bad.
Pretty lengthy stretch.
That's fair, Jenna.
It has. And look, Carmelo Anthony, his game has ebbed and flowed all season long. But I do believe in Paul George in the postseason, just like I believe in Russ. I think Russ's biggest question is going to be, can he, when his teammates aren't playing good basketball, can he continue to share the ball with them? Because we've seen the numbers, right? Under 14 shots, their record's through the roof. Over 14 shots, it's not so good. So can he trust them? But that's the worst possible matchup. No Steph Curry. You're using maybe Quinn Cook on Russell Westbrook in the playoffs. That's a tough matchup.
So there's an interesting thing, because as people, I think, look at me as something of a Warriors critic, some would even say a Warriors hater. I don't really, I probably, the latter, the former is accurate. The latter I don't think is fair. But I would be shocked if they face a single elimination game in the first round, no matter who they play. Could Oklahoma City take them 6? Maybe. I think that they have better coaching than anyone they'd play in the first round. I think they have a better cohesive unit, even without Steph than anyone they play in the first round. The home court advantage is a real thing. Oracle in the postseason, even though this year they haven't been as good at home. But the one thing that I do think is interesting, and you saw it a bit last night after Durant had the monster first half and then was quieted somewhat in the second half. Kevin Durant said something really interesting in this podcast with Bill Simmons, the two-part series from last week. They were comparing, contrasting his game to LeBron. And they were talking about LeBron's longevity. And KD said it, and he was complimenting. He wasn't taking a shot at all. He's like, listen, LeBron works a lot on his body. He's like, I would rather work on shot making. He said, I'd rather work on my game. He's like, I spend my time, I want to be able to make a shot from anywhere on the court. LeBron's in there working on his body. And that, by the way, you can see the difference between them. What that does cause is, at times, not as easy bucket getting as you can see with other guys. Like KD he is one of the best shot makers in NBA history. But if his shot is just a little off, what he can't do is what we've seen LeBron make a career of doing. My shot's off, guess what? I'm bigger, stronger, I'm going to get to the rim. So if I were to try to create a scenario where the Warriors don't get out of the first round, it would have to be because KD goes cold. Like, if KD's playing the way I know he can play, I just think with Klay and Draymond and the rest of the cast, they're so much better than everybody else.
One thing there's two things from last night's game that I really believe are important. We know there's a mismatch if they have to play OKC at the point guard with Russ. But we saw Klay have to guard Russ. Now, for me, I believe if they were to make it to the Western Conference Finals, it would be really taxing on Klay. Because that first series, he's got the toughest matchup in guarding Westbrook. So I believe that will have an effect on the team.
And in the second series, by the way, he'd probably be guarding Lillard. Because they're not going to ask Steph, especially coming off an injury, to guard Lillard.
Right. So I believe that this will be their toughest run in trying to win a championship. But I saw Steve Kerr start to make an adjustment, which kind of takes me out of the vulnerable state, where KD and Draymond started bringing the ball up the court. They start running their offense through Draymond and through KD. And you could see the overall continuity. You could see the passing come back. You could see kind of when they benched who was starting before Draymond? Before the team.
David Lee, years ago.
David Lee.
When David Lee was
you can start to see him playing a style like when they switched to Draymond and put him in more of a passing, more of an aggressive role. So for me, I don't believe, because of the time they've been able to spend, and with Draymond running some of the offense and KD getting used to bringing the ball up the court and initiating the offense, I believe that will pay dividends for them as we go into the playoffs.
As much as, look, the talent we understand with Oklahoma City, but one thing we talk about with the Houston Rockets and their matchup with Golden State is the hunger that Houston has right now, the belief that this is their opportunity. Oklahoma City's got hunger and they've got hatred for Golden State, particularly Russell Westbrook, who still carries this personal grudge against them. Don't underestimate how far that might be able to take you in a first-round series where the talent level has been evened a little bit in the absence of Steph Curry.
All that being said, though, how far do you think the Warriors go?
I think they win the championship. Like, I think Steph is back by the second round. I still think they're better than Houston, and I don't think anybody in the East can touch them.
You mentioned shocker about the East part of it. You mentioned
we'll get there too.
You mentioned the hatred. Something 1 minute into the basketball game, my phone rings because this guy's calling me, and he's like, "You watching the Warriors game?" I was like, "Yeah, man. I got it on. Got that on one screen. Cavs game on the other screen. What's up?" He's like, "Did you see what just happened with Russ?" And it was a minute in. Russ went to the basket. I think he got fouled, but whatever it was, Klay's leg was on him. And Russ threw it off him like it was a dirty piece of chicken. Like he was like, "Get away from me." Yeah. And so and you said we might have, like, there might be a little scuffle in this game. There might be something bad happening. Now, that didn't end up going that way. But you're talking about Russ playing with anger, playing with...
That's not a guy I want to see in the 6 or 7 game series.
No, especially not if you're matched up with Quinn Cook on the other end of the floor. I mean, look, there's a palpable desperation, I would say, in Oklahoma City as well, knowing that if they get beat in the first round, what does that mean for these guys? Does that mean that Paul George walks? Carmelo Anthony, does he wind up somewhere else? There's an
if Carmelo walks, he's going to walk real slow. But he don't do nothing.
Well, he's probably not leaving $28 million at the table. But there's just an understanding in Oklahoma City of what's at stake with this team. I think that's going to carry them a long way.
All right, Chris, stick around. Coming up, is Kawhi really on the trading block? Boy, what a long season it's been with him. That's next on First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.